What is up, everybody? All right, if you are looking for another 10 cards, you got it. Actually, 9 of them were just released in the last few days, so those will all be reviewed. And then one of the older cards will also be reviewed because it kind of goes with one of the newer cards, strategy-wise. So looking forward to getting going on this. Let's get into it. So we are going to start with that one card that was not released recently. It was actually released with the first 40, and that is Valdris Felgorge. Did I say that right? All right. Valdris Felgorge. So this, I'm going to give a 3 out of 5 to start. So this card is actually, for me personally, I have a deck that I specifically want to put this in. It was playing the Portal Demons. So you got Portal Keeper, Portal Overfiend, Augmented Elec, as well as High Priestess Gel Kick. Wow, all these cards right now. Basically, the idea was to use Plot Twist to draw your whole deck, flood the board with 2/2 demons. This would also support that deck, so I'd be curious to add this in, see what it does. But that's not really a viable deck competitively speaking, so I don't expect to see a whole lot of play. However, it does support the overarching, handlock theme that's been in Hearthstone forever. So I have a feeling handlock might make a comeback. But the next card, I feel, actually helps out handlock a little bit more than this legendary does. And that card is Abyssal Summoner. So Abyssal Summoner is like every control or handlock deck's dream. This thing is, it's a 2/2. Battle Cry, summon a taunt the size of your hand. So ideally you want to summon this when your hand is at least 6 or 7 cards or bigger after you play this. So this will pair great with Mountain Giant and all the usual handlock cards. So seeing this with those cards, I think is going to be very, very, very powerful. You drop this on, let's say you have a Mountain Giant, you get it off on turn 4 or 5, then you're summoning this on turn 6 or 7. You're basically going from an 8/8 into another 8/8, 9/9, or even, 10/10. So, or 11/11 if you have the Valdris, right? So, I think this is going to be great for handlock. I think it's going to bring handlock back into the light. And for that reason, this gets a 4 out of 5. And as always, if you guys are liking what you're seeing, please remember to hit that subscribe button below or in the bottom right of the video. Oh God, nope, this way, bottom right of the video. And remember to hit that like button. All right, third card, Flik Skyshiv. All right, on top of loving the name, this card is ridiculous. All right, you got Assassinate. That's 5 cost. Kill a creature, kill a monster. That's same thing as this. This costs 1 more. You're getting a 4/4 body on top of the Assassinate. Plus, you're killing everything else in the deck that is that same card. So things like Priest and Murloc that rely on a lot of the same copies of cards get wrecked by this. So I think this is an auto-include in Tempo Rogue. I think this is going to give Tempo Rogue what it needs to kind of stick with the pack and keep up with, control decks and these new Dragon decks that are going to come out. So for that reason, this gets a 5 out of 5. All right, and we have Sanctuary. So this is interesting. I'm not crazy about this card. I do think it's a good side quest, mainly because if you get this turn 2 and your opponent cannot do damage turn 3, or on their turn 2, then you get a 3/6 incredibly early. And a 3/6 is essentially a 4 or 5 drop. So you're basically on turn 3 getting, a 5 cost worth of stats on the board. So it's really good for basically any type of deck. It doesn't matter if you're going aggro or you're just trying to control and, live and get a taunt minion out there. So I do like that. I think it could be pretty powerful, but I don't know. I just don't think this card will be played as much as I think people will think it will in the beginning. I think people are going to go, oh my God, you can get a 3/6 on turn 3 and it's going to be so good. And that's going to be the immediate reaction, but I don't feel like this is going to be played in all too many decks. So I could see it being played in like an OTK deck, maybe the Holy Wrath Paladin, just to kind of stall out a little bit more, and then it also combos with timeout. But other than that, I don't know. We'll see what happens. For now, it gets a 3 out of 5. Next up is Veranus. All right. I love the idea with this card, especially that it's a dragon too, but I just don't think this. I'm giving this a 2 out of 5. I don't think this is going to do well. I don't think it's going to be good in competitive decks. Can we get a quick shout out to Rip Hunter's Mark, which has been nerfed into the ground. Hardcore. Anybody remember the 1-cost Hunter's Mark? All right, now let's go with the throwback OG people. You remember the 0-cost Hunter's Mark with the 2-cost Starving Buzzard? Yeah. You know who you are. So I don't think this card is going to be that great. It gets 2 out of 5. I don't really think it's going to fit into any hunter decks right now. Best case scenario, you get this and Unleash the Hounds for a full board clear, assuming there's no Death Rattle or Divine Shield or Reborn or anything on the field. And a 9 mana field clear with a 7/6 body left over is not bad when you compare it to something like Twisting Nether, but that's very, very, very situational. You have to have both cards, and you have to hope that nothing on their field is going to duplicate or stick around with Divine Shield or something like that. Amber Watcher. All right, so Dragon Paladin control is back, and possibly Ramp Dragon Paladin. I think that's going to be a thing. I think that's a sleeper pick because of the legendary that we actually reviewed in last week's video, but I think that's going to be a thing. This thing is basically Antique Healbot on steroids. Okay, it's still 8 health heal. You get a 4/6 body for 5 costs. This thing is great. I think it's going to be a staple in any Paladin control decks that pop up. So for that reason, this is going to get a 4 out of 5. All right, next up, this card has a special place in my heart. Necrium Apothecary. I mean, you could pair it with, ready? First thing that comes to my mind with this is Waxadread. Oh my god, with all these Death Rattle things, the second you add the Waxadread, which we also reviewed in the last video, oh my god. The amount of Waxadreads that you will be able to summon with Death Rattle Rogue, Myra Rotspring, Necrium Vial, Grawl, the Shark, Waggle Pick, I can't even talk, Anka the Buried. I mean, all these cards have great Death Rattle effects, and I don't know. I don't know what the deck's going to look like. I know there is already a Death Rattle Rogue deck kind of floating around. I don't personally think it's that great, so I think it kind of has to get, go back to the drawing board, but we'll see what comes of it. I think Death Rattle Rogue will be really good, so this is going to get a 4 out of 5. Dragon's Hoard. So this is interesting, and I think I'm right. I double-checked some of the cards. I think I'm right. I think this is the only card right now in the entire game that's ever been released that can discover specifically a legendary creature. So there's Arch Thief Rafam, which essentially gives you a legendary type spell. It's an artifact, but it's basically as powerful as a legendary would be. But I don't really think this has a place in any specific rogue deck. You're basically just tossing up to the RNG gods of whether or not you're going to get a good legendary, at least with something that discovers a Death Rattle or a Battle Cry. You know it's going to synergize with your deck if it's a Battle Cry or a Death Rattle deck. So for that reason, this is going to get a 2 out of 5. I'm excited that Warlock is coming back in style. All right, there is going to be, it looks like a few different Warlock builds. Very excited to see that with how low on the totem pole Warlock's been lately. So we got Crazed Netherwing, gonna give it a 4 out of 5. It's basically a 1-mana 5/5 with a Hellfire, which is absolutely insane. Or you can go throwback to the Duskbreaker, which now essentially you're just paying 1 mana 2/2 to add on to the 2/2 stats of the Duskbreaker. So it's going to get a 4 out of 5. I think this is an auto-include in any Control Dragon Warlock deck. And we got 2 5 out of 5s on this one. This one's going to be Netherbreath. And, yup, yeah, this is a thing. I mean, you had Shadow Bolt, which is a 3 cost, deal 4 damage. This is 2 cost, deal 4 damage, assuming you have a dragon, which we all know is not that hard of a thing to accomplish. But on top of that, it's Lifesteal, which is insane. And honestly, Flame Cannon, if anybody remembers Flame Cannon, that was pretty much auto-include in Mage back in the day. That was 2 costs, 4 guaranteed all the time, but it was a random minion. That was auto-include in basically every Mage deck. And that'll do it. Another 10 down. So we are at 30 completed thus far. Until next time, I hope everybody has a fantastic Thanksgiving. And as always, thank you for watching. Peace out.